real behind the scenes. What is this supposed to be all about? It's supposed to be all about setting, defining top value creation and preservation objectives, and all of the lines, most importantly, managing. Now, did the IIA say that management should report explicitly on the status of risk linked to objectives? They sort of did. They didn't clearly say they should. So if you go look at COSO 2017 ERM, it does say that that's what risk management should be doing. However, most people don't read it. It's too long. It's difficult to read. Certainly, senior people don't read it because they don't have the time. It's 160 pages long, written by Windy Consultants, which was my old alumni, PwC. It's just not in a form that's going to grab the attention of boards or CEOs. So there is a lot of this. The new framework is very simple. First, decide what you think are the top value creation and preservation objectives. Write them down in a register. Like, these are the objectives that are important enough to the success of the company, whether it's creating value or avoiding going to jail or paying fines or having your license to do business taken away. Put those objectives in a register. Assign an owner sponsor, which is a management person. It's not a risk management person, and it's not an internal auditor. Assign an owner sponsor. Decide how much assessment rigor is the target. A little bit or a lot. The higher the amount of risk assessment rigor, the more time it's going to take and resources. Then you decide, do you want independent assurance on the owner sponsor's conclusion on the status of risk / certainty of achieving this objective? Yes or no? If yes, from who? You then go to the board and you show them what you've produced. So the CEO has agreed, the C-suite's agreed. You take this draft objective register with all of the decisions on rigor and independent assurance, and you agree it with the board of directors. Step 4, owner sponsors complete the assessments at the target level of assessment rigor, and internal audit completes the quality assurance reviews and work that they're supposed to do as required, and the board gets a consolidated report on the status of risk. So this is what an objective register looks like. It has, it could be 20, 30 objectives that are value creation, value preservation. You have owner sponsors, you have target risk assessment rigor ratings over here. You have target independent assurance.
But sorry, in this objective you want to register, there is no mention of any risk. I mean, we don't identify risk to these objectives?
Yes. So when we go down, so this is the foundation of our methodology. It's called certainty status line. So once that register has an objective in it, and a decision is made how rigorous this part of the line looks like. So the higher the risk assessment rigor, the more work and time is going to be done to flesh out all of the data sets in these boxes here.
Right.
So in internal, external context, those are ISO 31000 terms. Then we identify risks and we decide likelihood, consequence. Then we say for the ones that we think are significant risks, we ask, well, what are you doing to treat them right now? So we identify risk mitigators, risk transfer vehicles, risk sharing vehicles, risk financing vehicles. And then we paint a picture of what we call residual risk status / certainty. So how well are we doing on this objective rate? So performance data, impact data, not impact of a single risk, impact if this objective is not achieved, which is data that few boards get right now. So this is impact if the objective is not achieved in whole or part. Situations where you found a risk and there was no treatment or the treatment was flawed. That's a concern, and it's down here in this box too. Impediments is anything in the way of reducing the current residual risk status. Are there things in the way of the company? They're forbidden from doing something that would reduce the risk of something by law. So that's an impediment. So you get to write those things down. So this decision diamond, management. So first the owner sponsor decides, am I okay with this residual risk certainty status, yes or no? But if the risk department thinks that the CEO would not agree with the owner sponsor's decision, you have to escalate upwards through management and get consensus agreement. Then internal audit will review. So the risk department's primary role is to help the owner sponsor do this assessment and produce this report. They also give an independent opinion if they have concerns about the process or the coverage. Maybe management has not put an objective in the register that risk department thinks they should. They can raise that with the board. But if the board says, no, we don't care, we agree with management, don't put it in the objective register. The risk management department did their job. They raised the concern. They got consensus agreement from the board and the CEO that they're not going to produce information on it. And hence, if there's a big problem with it for that objective, the risk department can't be held accountable. They raised the concern. C-suite and board agreed that no, we don't want to see risk status information on it. Then the internal audit department looks. So these are the definitions. We have 5 levels. So once you get down to that decision diamond, is it green? Is it starting to get a little yellow, a little more yellow, starting to move to red, or very red? So when an owner sponsor assigns a very red status to an objective, that says they have concluded that the current status is way outside of the organization's risk appetite and tolerance. So,
all right, the question here, just before we continue, so if we're driving the identification of risks from the objectives, so does this model guarantee that we identify all the risks that might impact the organization? Because we're taking it from the objectives, not as the traditional method, we're driving it from identifying the risk at the beginning.
Okay, so remember way back when I showed you this, decisions in step 2 are made on the amount of risk assessment rigor. These are agreed to by the C-suite and the board. What does that mean? Well, at the lowest level of rigor, you have an objective, you have an owner sponsor, you give them 30 minutes to think about it and assign one of these ratings. And they write a couple of paragraphs on it. That's this level of rigor. We move it up a bit. This takes 3 hours. We actually use a facilitator and we drive out a good set of risks, and we get red, ambers, and greens on each of those risks. So say you have an objective. It's not uncommon to have 20 risks to a single objective. Each of those has a red, amber, or green on it. That takes about 3 hours to push out with a trained facilitator using methodologies that we teach. We teach 30+ methods to identify risks to our facilitators. So that's this level. But when we move up another level, this level will take a full day. We not only identify risks, put red, ambers, and greens on them, we identify the actual risk treatments that's causing management to feel that it's green, or the lack of those risk treatments that's causing them to feel it's red. That takes more time. So that may take a full day. Then we can move up to high. Now we're not only looking at best guesses on these decisions, we're looking for fact-based data to support likelihood consequence ratings. We're looking for fact-based data. So management says we do this on Thursdays and says that's the risk treatment. Do they really do that exactly the way they described? Or is it something less than that? So that's a higher level of rigor where we're starting to get, then we can start using Monte Carlo simulations on the likelihood estimates. We can use stochastic modeling on the guesses about what will and won't happen in terms of probability. We can start using very research-based data on consequences. This could take a week, could take a month. So we teach boards and senior executives, they need to put what target level of rigor they want, recognizing that as they start, this level doesn't cost much at all. Now, listen to this. This level here takes about an hour. It's a better framework than the majority of companies in the world have right now, because the owner sponsor has to take responsibility for the rating they assign. So the owner sponsor owns the rating. So even though this is taking a very small amount of time, it's a better risk governance framework than having risk departments publish risk lists and internal auditors publish internal audit